Hello everyone and welcome to this new lecture. Today we're going to talk about nouns. So first of all, what is a noun? So a noun is a word that indicates a person, a place or a thing. And there are many types of nouns. For example, there are common nouns, that is nouns of objects. For example, book, pizza, etc. We have proper nouns, which are nouns that indicate the name of a person or a location. Collective nouns, which are nouns that indicate a group of people or animals or objects, for example, a crowd, a herd, a flock. Then we have abstract nouns, which are nouns that indicate abstract concepts or idea, for example, happiness, sadness, beauty. Then we have verbal nouns, which means nouns that come from a verb. For example, if I say running is nice, this means that the action of running is nice. And so it functions as a noun. So in Latin, and this is very important, nouns have three properties, which of course you have to remember: gender, number, and case. And as a postscriptum, I listed that Latin nouns have no article, and this is a characteristic of Latin. So let's talk about gender. So in most modern languages, gender tells us whether a noun is masculine or feminine. So most of the modern languages as a gender have only masculine and feminine. But Latin, however, also has a third gender, which is called neuter. Some modern languages still have neuter, for example, German. And neuter, of course, means neither, meaning neither masculine nor feminine. In Latin, the neuter is used mostly for some kind of objects, but this is a thing that is important to state, is that gender is absolutely, in linguistics, is absolutely conventional. This means that there is no particular reason for which a word is masculine or feminine or neuter. It's just a convention. For example, in Latin, all the names of the plants are feminine, but there is no particular reason for it. It's just because it's linked to the habits of the people speaking, which probably indicated the plants in feminine. So, how do you recognize if a noun is masculine, feminine, or neuter in Latin? Unfortunately, it is almost not possible. So, you always have to know beforehand, in a sense. So the best way is to memorize such information for each noun. Do we have gender in English? Of course we do! Yay! So, if you look at the final part of this slide, you will notice that we do have gender in English, but it's only limited to a small group of words, such as personal pronouns. For example, he, of course, is masculine. She, of course, is feminine, and it is, we can say, neuter. You can also refer to the possessive adjectives. For example, his, her, its. So we have gender, but just for a very limited category of names. Number is a very easy concept. Number is just singular if we are referring to one noun, and plural if we are referring to many of the things that we are talking about. Of course, in English you just add an S, letting apart like the irregular plurals, and Latin is no exception. So we have singular and plural in Latin too. A notion which might be new to some of you is the notion of case. So a case is a form which tells us the syntax or grammatical function of a noun inside of a sentence. So we have already seen today in class the notion of syntax, so I'm not gonna repeat that again. By the way, the concept of case will be more clear at the end of this lecture. Every case, which is a form of a word, is identified by one single ending. So every case will have its peculiar ending. This means that based on how a noun ends, you will be able to identify its syntax in a Latin sentence. How many cases does Latin have? 6. And so this means that for every noun there are 12 forms. let's talk about the Latin cases. For example, as a first case, we have the nominative. The nominative indicates the subject of a sentence. For example, if we have Mark is intelligent, of course, the person making the action of being intelligent is Mark, and so Mark will be the subject. In Latin, it would be nominative. Then we have the genitive. So the genitive can actually indicate many things, but as a preliminary concept, I think that you should learn that the genitive generally indicates possession. And so it can be rendered in English with a preposition of or with a Saxon genitive. For example, if I say Mark's book is interesting or the book of Mark is interesting, Mark's or of Mark would be genitive. It is of course not a coincidence that the Saxon genitive is called genitive, because it indicates possession. Then we have the dative. So the dative essentially expresses the thing or person to which something is directed or referred. This is why it expresses the indirect object. It can be translated with to or for. For example, I gave a book to Mark. So Mark is the end of the action because the book is directed to Mark, in a sense. And so in Latin you would have the dative. Even if I say, I bought pizza for you will be in the dative case. Then we have the accusative. So the accusative is very easy because it always expresses the object. You can also find it with certain prepositions such as ad, per, ob, but we will learn it later in the course. Then we have the vocative, which is very easy because it is used when you directly address someone. For example, if I say, Mark, come here. Since I'm directly addressing Mark, Mark would be in the vocative case. Then we have the case that, to my view, is the trickiest of Latin, because there is not really a unique way to translate it, but you can translate it in a variety of ways depending on the context. It also depends because ablative can be without a preposition or with a preposition. So the ablative alone, without a preposition, usually expresses means or instrument. So if I say, I'm fighting the enemy with a sword, so with a sword would be expressed in ablative, without a preposition. So I'm using the sword as an instrument, in other words. It can be used to express separation, but then it has to be the preposition a, ab, or ex. And it is also used to express association, and it is to be found in this case with the preposition cum. So if I say I'm having a journey with my friend, in Latin you would say cum amico meo, so with my friend. It can also be used to express location, but in this case you also find the preposition in. Then we have a super secret seventh case, which is the locative, which no one cares about. No, of course, this is a joke. Like, people care about the locative, but it's very rare, and it is used to express location in a place. Why do we have a seventh case in Latin? Because it was present in archaic Latin, but then people just stopped using it. So, interesting question. Does English have cases? Because usually, some modern languages have cases. For example, I think the Swedish and Norwegian have cases, and also German. But does English have cases? The answer, interestingly enough, is yes. But just for the relative pronouns. For example, if I say, who ate my pizza, who is a sort of nominative form of the relative. If I say, Mark, whom I know, is my friend, this whom expresses the object of the person that I know. And so whom is a sort of accusative. And also whose, because if I say whose pen is this, whose in this case means of which person is this pen. Therefore, it is a sort of genitive form. Okay, all of these cases are grouped in declensions. What is a declension? So a declension is a family inside of which a series of names are grouped. There are 5 declensions in Latin, and each of them has their particular and distinctive endings. The first, because this is in general grammarians use this call this the first declension, is composed mostly by names that are feminine, many names that are feminine, and few names that are masculine. For example, a feminine name is Rosa, like in this example. A masculine name is Poeta, the poet. So let's decline Rosa, Rosae. So you have, of course, to memorize the cases in this order, because when you will be asked to decline a word, you will have to use this order for the cases. In general, nominative and vocative go together because the forms, 90% of the cases, are the same. So I will start reading first the singular and then the plural. Rosa, rosae, rosae, rosam, rosa. Rosae, rosarum, rosis, rosas, rosis. So, as you can see, there is a thing that stands out, which is the endings are different, but there is a part of the word that never changes, which is called the stem. The stem is basically the semantic unity of the word. What does it mean? It means that the stem usually conveys the meaning of the word. It's also called the root, and it's a part that usually never changes. What changes are, of course, the endings. In other words, if you know the endings, you can decline any kind of word. So, what is the moral of this lecture? What is, like in brief, what did we learn in this lecture? So, in most modern languages, the syntax of a word is given by its position in a sentence. This is true for English, which has a pretty rigid syntax. For example, if I say the girl loves roses, we instinctively understand that the girl is the subject because it is at the beginning of the sentence. And roses is the object because it is found after the verb. So this is the syntax of modern languages. For ancient languages, this is different, because in Latin the order of words mostly doesn't matter. In Latin, the syntax of a word is given instead by cases, as we said before. The order of the words is generally of little importance. Let us take our previous example. If translated literally, in Latin would be puella amat rosas. However, we know that puella, and we can clearly see it, ends with a short a. So the short a is the ending for the nominative case. So wherever you put puella, it will always be the subject. You can say the same for rosas, because we know that the ending as with a long a is the ending for the accusative plural. And so wherever you put rosas, it will always be the object of the verb. Therefore, wherever you put it, puella amat rosas, puella rosas amat, rosas puella amat, amat rosas puella, amat puella rosas, however you put it, it will always mean the girl loves roses. And we know that because we have learned in this lecture how to analyze the different cases. So unfortunately, there is no way to learn the declensions without studying and memorize them. What you can do, of course, is to repeat them, even with your voice, or to catch a word from your exercises and try to decline it. We will exercise, of course, we will have plenty of opportunity to practice in class, so don't worry, but I think that the first step in order to learn a declension is to actually memorize it by yourself and then practice it. Thank you very much for your attention. This is all that I had to say for today. Goodbye.